Hey everyone, it's Brutal Dan.
And it's Banana Chan. Welcome to Spooky Asian Club.
Ooh. Spooky Asian Club is your new favorite horror podcast where we slice into the intersections of Asian stories, horror movies, pop culture, and more from our creepy little perspectives.
And in this episode, we're talking about the 1998 Japanese film Ring or Ringu and the 2002 English adaptation The Ring. But before we get into all of that, it's time to get weird.
Hey, listener, this is Banana in the future. Just wanted to give you a heads up that there will be spoilers for the movies that we're going to be talking about today. So, if you don't want to listen to any spoilers, then I would suggest that you watch the movie first and then come back and listen to the episode. All right, back to the show.
Mmm.
Mm.
Hey Banana,
Yes.
what spooked you recently?
Well, recently, me and my friend Danny, which is someone you might know, aka it's actually you.
It's me. It's me.
It's you. Spoiler alert. We went to go see this movie called Presents.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was kind of a I feel like it was a sleeper hit. I didn't hear much about it on social media
Mhm.
or anything, but The Presence was released, I guess technically in 2004, even though we're in
Yeah.
2025. It was directed by Steven Soderbergh, who is kind of a huge director.
Yeah.
He did Contagion, which was a movie I watched actually during lockdown, which was very depressing, but also like, what the heck? But he also directed Magic Mike, which some of you may know, and
My
then
favorite.
also the Oceans trilogy. So he's like,
Oh.
yeah,
I
big
didn't know that
name.
he did all three oceans. I
Yeah,
thought I knew he did the first Ocean's 11, but I didn't
yeah.
know it was like Oceans. Wait, it's Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, and Ocean's 13?
Yep, yep. He did the whole trilogy.
Wow.
And the movie was written by David Coep, who wrote and or co-wrote Jurassic Park, Spider-Man, and Angels and Demons. So this is a pretty stacked team. And speaking of the cast of the movie, we had Lucy Liu, the iconic Lucy Liu. Love her in Kill Bill. Chris Sullivan from This Is Us, and I guess the final girl. Oh, I guess it's not really a final girl situation, but uh, Kalina Liang was one of the main actresses too, who was the daughter. So
I
yeah,
loved her. I thought she was great.
yeah. Julia Fox also made a an appearance, and I feel like Julia Fox is just kind of
Oh,
iconic. She
yeah.
was the realtor.
The realtor was so funny in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like her struggling with all the pamphlets and trying to get to the house on time.
Yeah, it was really funny. Kind of a comic relief leading into the movie. But if you don't know about the movie, it was a movie about a family who moves into a haunted house, but you are, as the viewer, in the perspective of the ghost that's haunting the house.
Yes.
So it was very interesting. I've watched a movie like this, I think you might have as well, called In a Violent Nature,
Yes.
where you follow the footsteps and perspective of the slasher in this movie. So instead of the slasher this time, you have the perspective of the ghost. What did
Yeah.
you think?
I thought it was really interesting. So I really liked the use of the camera where it was just, floating, very ethereal, especially the first scene where we're alone with the ghost. I think it was maybe about like a couple of minutes where you're just wandering this house. I mean, you as the ghost, you as the camera. It's just the camera acting as the ghost floating around this house. And it's so lonely. It was just such a lonely and sad feeling. And I was like thinking to myself, oh, okay, this is not going to be a scary movie. This is going to be a sad movie. Uh, because I think that we both went into the expectation that this movie was going to be a scary movie.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw that the it's rated R.
Mhm.
And I guess right now my mind when I think of rated R horror movies or scary movies or ghost movies, I think, oh, there's going to be a whole bunch of jump scares. But I guess we should also say this is in the territory of spoiler alert. So spoilers are coming for the presents. But yeah, there was actually no jump scares in this horror movie or the scary movie. I don't even know what
Yeah.
to classify it. Scary movie? Ghost movie?
It's a ghost movie for sure. There are ghosts in it. I mean, one ghost. There is at least one ghost that I
Yeah.
saw.
There
And
was
I
one
think that
ghost.
was us. That we were the ghost.
Yeah. So again, the basic premise is that you kind of step into this family, and it's very voyeuristic, obviously.
Mhm.
And for me, it was like the majority of the story was kind of like the turmoil that this family was going through. And like that was like the most kind of uncomfortable part for me, or like the most unsettling parts, because you're watching this family's like, I guess, innermost feelings and how they treat each other when they're in a group setting versus their individual settings versus them in different pairings as well. So we
Yeah.
kind of get I shouldn't say fun. We get interesting snapshots of their everyday lives from the perspective of this ghost. So like some of the shots, like the ghost is like right in their faces, or like, staring
Yeah.
at them while they're sleeping or things like that.
Yeah, there was this one scene where there's this one character, I think it was the daughter. The camera gets right up into her face, and then suddenly the camera breathes, like the ghost breathes on her, and she's just
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, what the
Ooh.
hell was that?"
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. I also really liked the movie because it reminded me of Coherence, right? Like those movies that have like, so another spoiler, this is gonna be a huge spoiler actually. But the movie itself reveals that the ghost is sort of in this weird like time. It's not really a time loop. It's just that they're like, um, they've gone back in time, or they don't know what part of time they are in.
Hmm.
As you know, the medium suggests, because the medium shows up in the middle of the movie, who coincidentally is, was it the sister, like the realtor's sister or
It was the
something like
realtor's
that?
sister. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
and so
convenient, but
yeah, very conveniently, the realtor has a sister who is psychic, and she shows up and she can see or sense the ghost, and she says something about how this ghost is not sure like what part of time they're in. They're very confused.
Mhm.
And then close to the end of the movie, we realize that the ghost is actually the brother.
Mhm.
This whole time. And so the brother was like trying to prevent, their sister from getting murdered, because there had been a series of murders happening in that town. And so that sort of reveal reminded me a lot of quote unquote paranormal. They're not really necessarily paranormal, but they're like very sci-fi movies that talk about time travel and parallel universes. And so Coherence was a movie that came up for me as being something that was like very similar to this. And I think Triangle was another movie that I thought about as well, because of that sort of like time loop thing and the afterlife and limbo. And there was a lot of religious connotations in this movie as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking they did skirt the line of religion, which I think is a fair topic to have in any movie, especially in an American movie. I'm glad that they didn't do it too much, but there were a few times where I was just like, huh. So are they like, I don't know. I don't know how, like, it was definitely not a religious movie, but the theme of religion and God came up a few times, and I was like, honestly, that is interesting that it was brought up, because I guess in Christian theology, there's not really ghosts, but in this movie, if God was real, and if these mediums and people that can feel the presence, it kind of, I don't know. I think it was an
Mhm.
interesting thing. I thought they may have mentioned it one or two times too many. Uh,
Yeah.
However, I think I get it, because these are just kind of everyday people trying to make sense of what this presence is. And I think it's interesting because they didn't skirt away from, I guess, the reveal. It starts off just the daughter understanding, like, oh, there's a presence here. I can feel something.
Yes.
And there was like a cool theme of like when you go through trauma, there's this door at your emotional lowest that kind of like thins out or is shattered.
Mhm.
And you might be able to feel a presence or be connected to the afterlife. In this movie, they said that like some people can't take it, so they just, they end it where they need to because it's just too much. And then some people learn to live with it. So I thought that was a cool explanation. But even after the daughter started trying to keep it a secret, it was really interesting that they brought the whole family into it. And it was kind of
Yeah.
like you never really see that. You kind of fall into this, oh, one person is quote unquote crazy and the rest of the people don't experience anything. But yeah, it was cool that they all experienced it together, but the daughter was the one that was able to kind of feel it the most.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it was sort of like a red herring in the very beginning because it was like, the daughter could feel it the most. She was going through a lot. She had lost two friends. They were trying to lead us on in terms of like, making us think that, oh, the person that died and or the ghost or whatever that's here is actually Nadia or, one of her other friends. And so that was really interesting, especially like the moment with the breath too, like the camera or the ghost breathing onto the daughter. I thought it was like, oh, maybe this is Naja. Maybe this is like, a movie about Naja and their relationship or something.
Mhm.
And then it sort of took a turn where it was like, once the medium said something about the time period thing and like, things being confusing for the ghost, that's when I thought like, it could have been either the sister that passed away in the house or the brother that passed away in the house because they said that it had to be someone that passed away in that house. So I
Mhm.
thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the religious thing, I was just like, that was a little heavy-handed.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with the final scene with like the final view of you like ascending. Well, so this
Mhm.
whole time this ghost was stuck into the house. So even when things were happening outside, they're looking outside windows, they're looking outside the door, but they could never leave the house. So I guess you could see it that like, oh, now that the vessel of the person that died is haunting, they can leave it now. But it was kind of visually like you're ascending into
Yeah.
heaven. So yeah, that was a maybe I don't know, maybe we shouldn't think about it too much, but I don't know if a heaven exists or what the connotation is of y you existing in this timeline, your afterlife not understanding a mortal timeline, and then you looking out for yourself. That's kind of
Yeah.
comforting, kind of confusing,
Yeah.
um kind of weird. And maybe it's that like not everybody will ever cross paths of where they died again, or I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how this world works,
Yeah.
but it was definitely interesting.
Yeah. We did talk a little bit about like the two parallel timelines. Like, is it two timelines? Is it like all happening at the same time? Is it something completely different?
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I think it's just one timeline. I think it's one timeline, but I do believe that they were hinting that in the afterlife, there is maybe an absence of a timeline, or there's an
Mm.
absence of what time is in our dimension or how we perceive time. So I do believe that, yeah, the brother died in our mortal realm, and his ghost has been waiting around to be able to save his sister. And anybody that wants to watch this movie, we should also say that big trigger warnings on sexual assault. Um,
Yes.
because that was the kind of climax in the third act, is that there was this kind of hotshot swimmer that the brother was trying to befriend, and the daughter Chloe also had sexual relationships with him. But from the ghost perspective, we can see that Ryan, the friend, was not a very good person and was like trying to drug her. And it was again, it was a very interesting like that duality. Obviously, he's just a shit person for trying to do this to young girls. However, in his rational brain, he was like, I don't have control of anything. My mom controls everything. And there was like this motif of control. And when you can't control anything, you, I guess, find the darkest parts of things that you can control. And that was his excuse of like committing these awful acts and murder. Like he was
Yeah.
revealed to kill the other two people.
Related to that,
Hmm.
do you remember the scene where the brother who's still alive at this point and the entire family, they're talking about this prank that they were going to pull on this girl. I forget the name of the girl, but they were saying that she was going to put on like a dog shirt or something like that. And the mom was being all like, oh my God, you shouldn't have done that. But I want to keep talking to you. Like that kind of like weird those two had a weird
That
relationship.
was a weird thing.
That
That
was a
was,
weird thing.
yeah.
Yeah. um but do you remember that scene where as they were talking, the ghost goes up into the brother's room and destroys, like completely wrecks the room. That was like another red herring where I was thinking like, oh, that has to be Nadia doing all of this. But why do you think, like now that we know that it's actually the brother, why do you think the brother did that?
I think it was the fact that the mom was so hyper obsessed with the son, and the dad was looking out for their daughter who has been traumatized a couple times by
Mhm.
losing a friend. He has tried, the dad, Chris, has tried to have this conversation with the son over and over about like you need to look out for your daughter, you need to
Mm.
your sister, you need to stand up for her, you need to like be there for her. So I think dead dead Tyler, dead son, ghost son, sees now why the dad, like, I guess, understands. So,
Mm.
like,
Mhm.
the son gets to see his mortal self talking like awfully about this girl at school and like how much of a douchebag and asshole he's being.
Yeah.
And I think maybe his ghost, it clicked at that point where he was like, if I'm not gonna shut myself up, I'm gonna go wreck this room and make you shut up because
Yeah.
yeah, you just need to stop. And I think that was kind of like the first hint that we never really picked up on until you understand the reveal that it was the brother the whole time.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That was a
Hmm.
really interesting moment for sure.
Yeah, and that was like the big reveal where the whole family experienced the ghosts.
Mhm.
And it was it was interesting that Chloe, the daughter, was almost um like a braggart, like a I told you so, I'm not scared, I'm
Oh my
staying
God.
here.
I love her.
Yeah, I did too. And the mom and the son was like, well, we got to get out of here. And even the dad was like, I'll stay with you. So you could kind of see this divide of a family.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought that was an interesting moment. And it was for me at that moment, I was like, oh, okay. This whole time, I thought there was going to be jump scares because obviously you're in the perspective of a ghost and there are reflective surfaces, but they're like old mirrors and like you never like go in front of an actual mirror. So I always thought there was going to be a jump scare, but there was no jump scares. Um there was no maliciousness in this
Mhm.
ghost. So I was like, "Oh, maybe it's a nice ghost." And it turned out to be a nice ghost.
Yeah, I love the camera angles, like the shots, like refusing to go in front of it so you
Mhm.
can't see who it is.
Yeah.
That was great until the very end where, you get the big reveal. That was great.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention, and I want to hear your perspective on, is that we kind of see like this ghost is kind of a poltergeist. We
Mhm.
see the ghost kind of like move the books and organize the books for now we know for his sister. We see the ghost pull down the the fixtures in the closet in a way to distract this sexual act that was about to happen between the daughter and the friend. Um, and then we also see this like weird pulsing thing near the end
Yeah.
of like this ghost power or like this sound that they would like ringing in the ear that they could have. What were your thoughts on like this like how the ghost interacts in our realm?
Like, what are the ghost rules in
Yeah,
this
what are the
realm?
ghost rules here?
Yeah, I think, okay, so I think that the ghost rules are you can interact with inanimate objects. So definitely books, definitely like, whatever is like on the table, they can definitely touch and like move around. But once it gets picked up, then like by a person, then you can't interact with it because there was this one scene where I forget the creepy kid's name. What's the creepy kid's name? The
Ryan.
stars. Ryan. You're really
Yeah,
good with names.
I took notes.
Ryan. Ryan puts that drug into the daughter's drink and sets it on the table, and the ghost was able to just knock it over.
Mhm.
But when she picked it up the second time around, when he did that to try to drug her again, the ghost wasn't able to knock it away or do anything at that point.
Mm.
So I think that the ghost can't interact with anything that is being held by someone who's like a living being.
Mhm.
So I think that's the first or like the second rule, right? Like you can interact with like inanimate objects, but you can't interact with, and the second rule would be like you can't interact with like anything that's being held by a living being. And then probably the third rule is you can't touch a living being, but you
Mhm.
can probably, because I wonder if he tried to possess the brother. He was completely asleep um, on the couch while, the creepy kid and the daughter are upstairs, like, doing
Yeah.
whatever. And I think that maybe he tried to possess himself at that point, but I guess like it didn't, like it couldn't work or something, but like he ended up waking him up anyway.
Yeah, well, so like the during during one point when the daughter was asleep and I feel like it was just more of an atmospheric play, but you do see
Mhm.
the ghost come up and do that weird possession thing to her as well.
Yeah.
What was that all about? I actually don't know. Like,
Yeah.
was he trying to wake her up?
I wonder
Or
if he's not able to possess anyone that's not him.
mm, okay.
Or I mean, he's also trying to wake her up, but like she's fast asleep, so it's like, okay, maybe the ghost is just like, well, guess I can't do it.
Yeah, but why would he try? That's an interest. I we will never know because we
We're
weren't
not
that
ghosts.
ghosts. We aren't ghosts in this realm. Um, the last thing that I want to mention was how at the very end, Lucy Liu does this amazing job that gave me chills when
Yeah.
she finally like the son dies. So near the end of the movie, the son saves the daughter by tackling Ryan out this window that has been this ominous window that we've been looking through this whole time.
Mhm.
And they both die. And then it kind of cuts, and then you see the whole house is empty again, just at like the beginning. And then you see the reflection of the sun finally in the mirror that's in the living room that has been like mentioned a few times throughout the movie. In this world, ghost rules. Do you think in this world you can only show yourself once you're quote unquote freed or like once your deed is done?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Maybe. I know screenwriter rules is that ending where you started is like a great way to end like a movie.
Hmm.
I wonder, yeah, that's a great question actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe like the son's like, I can finally reveal myself now that the the guilt is gone. Because probably
Mm.
the ghost is probably holding on to a lot of trauma as well and trying to like, trying to move on. But he can't because he needs to do that final deed
Hmm.
in order to move on. And so maybe he has like a lot of guilt built up. And so once he's relieved of that guilt, he can finally say to or show himself to his mom, who he had
Mm.
a really close relationship with.
And you just made me think too. They kept mentioning like it is at the point of trauma where that veil or that door is opening or shattered.
Yeah.
So because the mom had lost her son just then, that door for her is probably shattered now.
Yes,
But then like
yes.
Chloe, I don't think Chloe even saw her brother in the reflection. I think it was just the mom, Lucy Liu.
Yeah. Maybe
So
because she did mention, and this is like that creepy scene where they were like, where she was like, I have never felt this close to any other human being. And he's just like, oh, what about Chloe? And she's
yeah,
just like, well, Chloe,
yeah, it's just Chloe. I was just like,
Oh, it's
what?
Chloe. Oh, you have two children.
I feel like that was brought up a few times from the dad, even from the son, and like that poor girl. That Chloe was
Poor
just
Chloe.
just going through it, and the mom. Oh, one last thing, and then we can move on to the next part. But like,
Yeah.
we talked about that kind of maybe a red herring, maybe just like unfinished business, but they
Mhm.
kept mentioning this kind of illegal fight that the mom was
Yes.
having with something, and the dad wanted to get a divorce, and then
Yes.
like, what was that all about?
I don't know. And I tried Googling it because I was like, what was that person's name? It was like Alan something. I
Yeah,
keep wanting to say Alan Wake. That's not the right name. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's probably some sort of I don't know. She was deleting a whole bunch of emails at one point. There was like scene where she was just like deleting a bunch of emails. Now that I'm thinking about it, because like we now know that it's the brother, what if the movie was intentionally being like, okay, you're not supposed to know. Like this is just from the brother's point of view. And so anything that they say is just like stuff that the brother just wouldn't know. So
yeah, that's fair, and we don't need to know everything. However, it was sprinkled a few times throughout the
yeah.
movie, like where the dad was like, "Hey, we need to meet with this Allen guy at this conference to try
Yeah.
to get us out of this," and it was just kind of like, okay, what did she do? Like, maybe it's just my nosy ass wanting to know, but I was
Yeah.
like, what did you do, Lucy Liu?
I know right now I'm Googling it again. I'm just like, what happens? Like where'd she do?
That's so funny. All right,
Yeah.
let's take a break.
All right, and we're back. Let's get into the movie franchise that we are here to actually talk about,
Mhm.
Ringu.
Did you know? So I watched a few YouTube videos as well. So of course we watched both of these movies, Ringu and The Ring, the American remake. And I was trying to find the differences between the two, of course. I think phonetically it is known in America as Ringu,
Mm.
but it is differentiated because I think in Japanese a lot of the words either end with a vowel or an N. So it's almost like a guttural like ringu.
Oh,
Like just like a I don't know, like a accent at the end. It's technically just ring and
oh,
1998 and then the ring. So fun fact for the I guess ease of the show so that we can differentiate between the two, we can still call it Ringu and the ring, but I thought that was interesting. I thought it was supposed to be called Ringu, but it's just butchered Japanese English, I guess.
that is really interesting. I did not know this.
Yeah,
That's
me
very
neither.
cool. Should we explain what the movies are, first of all?
Yeah, I'll run through some basics and then you can kind of give just a basic
Yeah.
overview. So, Ringu was released in 1998. It has a runtime of 96 minutes. We love a tight horror movie. It was directed by Hideo Nakata, written by Hiroshi Takakashi, and it was based on the novel Ring by Koji Suzuki. And it had a budget of $1.5 million. And I mentioned this because of course, there's the American remake, which is the first. I watched the American um, Ring when I was when it came out in 2002. On that side of things, it was 115 minutes, so it's a little bit longer, almost hitting that 2 hour mark, which a lot of the times is pushing it for horror movies. But after my rewatch for this, I was like, that's fine. But um, The Ring in 2002 was re-released about almost 5 years later in America, and it was directed by Gore Verbinski, who I looked up. He directed the first three Pirates of the Caribbean, which was pretty cool. And it was written by Aaron Kruger. However, this budget was $48 million.
That is
So
bonkers.
yeah. So 1.5 million back in 1998
Oh my
versus
God.
$48 million in 2002. But yeah, let's give a quick recap about what these movies are about.
So, both movies are about a journalist who is investigating the deaths of several teens who coincidentally, in air quotes, died at the same time after watching a cursed videotape. In the Japanese version, you see that there are a lot of psychics involved. Being a psychic, being a medium is definitely a large part of the storyline. Whereas in the English version, there are a lot of horses.
Actually true. Yeah, a lot of horses.
I think the horses were like the main plot device for the English version versus like the Japanese version was definitely more about like crowd mentality and like, fear of the other and a lot of that. And also just like I think both of them had mommy issues, like just written all over
Oh,
them.
100%.
Yeah, they're both just
Uh,
mommy issue movies.
I will say the so I just watched Ringu, and it was definitely more of like a slow, like the pacing, it was like a slow burn. It was, I feel like the shots were more intentional. It was a little bit darker during the darker moments, but like when they were outside, it was bright. It was bright. And I should say, like, maybe the color balancing was better in this one because The Ring, you made a joke that it looked like a music video.
I thought it looked like the Atari's Boys of Summer.
Yeah,
Like I
this like
thought, yeah.
blue-green filter on it. And I don't think I realized it until I was seeing some shots that were like side by side, and I was like, what is going on? It's like you're in the Matrix slash like a seaside town. Just like
Yeah.
it's wild how blue-green things are. And then you watch regular things and you're just like, oh. But I think, oh, fun fact, the Ring was I based in Seattle. I don't know if it's was shot in Seattle, but I was like, oh, hey, that's cool. We're in Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah. The second ring is over in not Portland, Oregon. It's like in a town in Oregon. And I was going to ask one day, do you want to go visit that town?
Yeah. Let's go visit these haunted towns where these
Right.
the
Were there
Pacific
videotapes?
Northwest. Yeah. Oh yeah, so for our Gen Z and Gen Alpha listeners, this movie is based off of a curse that is spread through VHS tapes, which sounds bonkers, but it scared me. It scared me for sure.
How do we explain what a VHS tape is? Like, I don't even know where to start.
Well, in the Ring 2002 American version, they like deep dived like how you like scrub VHS
Oh,
tape. I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, this is interesting
Yeah,
more
that
than I
was
ever knew."
fun.
Yeah. But I guess a VHS tape is kind of like the old school, like imagine old school 55 millimeter old-timey tapes, but in a compact little I don't know, 12 by 6 square rectangle that fits into a VHS player. You have to have a VHS player as well. And it's literally like a tape that projects movies. I don't know. This sounds crazy. I might be going crazy, but
My God, I asked you to describe what a VHS tape is. As if no one's gonna know what it is.
sometimes you have to explain to the youngins what this thing actually is. But yeah, for me, between the two, watching both kind of back to back, I would say the original was definitely a slower burn, and it was more about atmosphere, and building this tension and kind of this reveal of what happened to this girl. So Sadako versus the American version, Samara. So Sadako is the I guess curse or the ghost demon. What is Sadako?
Oh,
Uh
she's just a girl. So I know you told me not to watch all of the Ring franchise at all, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try not to watch every single Ring piece of media, because
yeah.
there's the manga, there's the novels, so it's not just like one novel, it's multiple novels.
Yeah.
And there's like so I went onto Reddit, and someone made this amazing chart of all the different movies, all the different manga, all like the just basically everything.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to show it here because I don't know if you can see it. Wait, can you see that? So it's
Yeah.
like there's a billion different things, and I put a check mark next to all the ones I saw. Uh, I did not go through all of them. And I'm reading the audio, or I'm listening to the audiobook for the original Ring right now. But for everything else, I watched Ringu, Ring 2, and Ring Zero, which those are the Japanese versions. And then for the Ring, I watched the Rings, which is a short film, and then Ring 2. And in Ring Zero, which is the Japanese version, it's like the third movie, I believe, out of that series. You find out that Sadako is actually 19 years old.
Oh.
And she's not dead. She wasn't dead when she went into the well, when she like got pushed into the well.
Uh-huh.
So she survived 30 years. It's actually, you find that in the second movie as well. She survived 30 years in that well, and
Yeah.
then died like 1 to 2 years prior to the tapes being released.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. So Sadako for me was a little bit scarier than Samara.
I think so too.
Um, and I don't know, it was just like the fact that like that the ending shot of the original Ring with just her eye, like that weird. It's
Yeah.
that was scary. And like Samara is definitely scary as well, but like I feel like there was too much effects on her,
Yeah.
and like the fact that Sadako didn't really talk at all and was almost a figure that could not be touched until she wanted to harm you in whatever way.
Mhm.
Samara, we learned that Samara was just like, just a bad child, just like angry. I should say angry child, or
Yeah.
like didn't have the tools to cope with whatever she was
Yeah.
dealing with. So I feel like that kind of sets the precedent of like the original Ring being a slow burn, and this new
Mhm.
one, you kind of like it was definitely more of like a thriller mystery. Like the Rachel was like all of a sudden became like a detective, and so was like what was her uh boyfriend's name or
Oh, it's her ex-husband.
Noah.
Wait.
Noah.
Noah, yes.
Yeah. And it was just kind of like all of a sudden they were like breaking into places to like look up documents, and which was really cool, but then it kind of turned into like this thriller with like jump scares, and I guess it was very Americanized, whereas the Japanese one really made me like watch to like try to understand like what actually happened to this girl. And even the videos themselves. Like I feel like the videos, the
Mhm.
7 days videos, In the original Ring, it almost looked like a real video that you could like that was like all chopped up and like, but it looked like real video footage
Yeah.
as opposed to the American version. It like they added like those weird creepy elements and like these like fast cuts and like it it felt more melodramatic and like fake and like of course like this film is supposed to scare you, but I don't know. I think that was kind of a huge distinguishing point for me is that one was kind of built to give you this lead you maybe into this sense of dread and wonder, and the other one was like more in your face, like, oh, you better watch out. Samara's gonna come get you. Even the deaths or like the kill shots where this like when you see dead bodies in the
Mhm.
ring, they're dead and their mouths are open, but they still look like people. Whereas I feel like in the newer one, obviously they had way more
Yeah.
budget, almost
They
$50
had
million.
so much money.
But those deaths, like they're pretty gruesome. Like the dead bodies are like their mouths and their face and their ugh, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think that the makeup was a little too much. Because just like even the original where it's like, in the Japanese version, like the contorted faces were enough for me to be like, that is terrifying.
mhm.
And then seeing like the contorted faces with the makeup, that was just like, okay, we're getting that's like getting a little out of hand here now with
Yeah.
the ring, the English version. Also, like going back to the tapes, right? Like comparing the two tapes. In the Japanese version, there weren't as many things going on. It was just like the circular frame or the oval frame with the it was like a mirror, right? Like
Mhm.
reflecting back the mom and Sadako, and I think what there was like the guy with the cloth hanging like over his head and he's like pointing at a thing.
Yeah.
Um and then there was like the well and maybe like a couple other shots, and that was like it for that tape. And then the other tape, like in the English version, it was like there was the centipede, there were like the nails going through the fingers
Oh, that
and
was kind of gross.
yeah, exactly, there were all the fingers in like the big pan.
The little scorpion finger
Yeah,
worms, yeah.
yeah, exactly. There were maggots, there were like
Flies.
yeah, there were flies, there was the ladder. I think it was like the maggots transitioned into like a whole bunch of bodies in the water.
Mhm.
Um and I was thinking back on like, why is it that this one has so much more stuff going on? And it's because all that stuff happens in real life in Rachel's world after she sees the tape. So I'm just like, okay, that makes sense. Like, the stuff actually happens. But at the same time, it's like the tape wasn't as scary as the original, but it had less stuff happening. Um, which explains why it was a slower burn, because it was less stuff happening. It was just like a very slow, almost meditative experience of
Yeah.
waiting for death to come to you.
Yeah, now that you mention it, so like I did one of my notes was like, oh, Rachel just happens to walk under this ladder that was very prominent in the video, and like
Mhm.
does everybody that watches this video happen to experience every single thing that Rachel did?
So the answer to that is yes. If you
Crazy.
watch if
Yeah.
you watch Rings, the short film that's available on YouTube, uh,
Not
um,
sponsored, not sponsored by
not
YouTube.
sponsored, not sponsored by YouTube, but YouTube, if you do want to sponsor us, we are here, and we love money. Rings is actually one of my favorites out of the entire Ring franchise, the short film specifically, and that's because it's only like what 16 minutes long, I think, or like less
Oh,
than 20 minutes. And it's really good. Like it's surprisingly very good for this thing that was just like a spin-off. It's like a short spin-off. It was released right before Ring 2. And you'll see that the reason why they did that was because Rings was supposed to lead into Ring 2. And there's a little bit of like a prequel sort of thing that happens in the very beginning of Ring 2. However, Ring 2 was not as good as Rings. But basically, the short film was about a bunch of teenagers who find these tapes, and they're teens. They're teens who just want to experience new things. And it has this like talk to me vibe to it,
mhm.
where I think like Talk to Me it had to have been inspired by this movie because it was very much like, oh, we're trying to like get to the edge of something that's weird and paranormal and we've never experienced it before. And this group of kids is trying to convince this other kid to get to day 7. And so they all
Mm.
know the rules. They all know that, like, you can make a copy, make someone else watch it, and you'll pass on the curse and you'll be fine. But for them, they were just like, yeah, we're going to try and make this kid go all the way to day 7 and see what happens. So they're literally messing with this kid. And then in Ring 2, you find out that this kid is trying to make a copy and trying to show it to another kid while he's close to his final moments of life. So
Wow.
yeah, and you see like everything happening to him, the centipede, the ladder.
What if you live in a place that has no ladders or centipedes? Are you safe?
Oh, so they explain that too. So
Oh, I love it.
it is, yeah, so this short film just explains everything. It's basically just like you seeing it. No one else can see it. It's just you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, yeah. I know you mentioned Talk to Me pulling references, but like this, I will say The Ring, I mean, because of the original Japanese Ring, it's influenced kind of our generation of horror, if you think about it, with like It Follows
Yeah.
and Smile, Smile 2, like being able to
Yeah.
pass on us this curse. And I never really thought how, I guess, disrupting this movie was. But if you think about it, like the big movies like Scream and like coming from like Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and
Mhm.
all these kind of like I was gonna say iconic men, but I kind of hate that the way that I thought that, but like these kind of like overbearing uh horror icons, and then you have this not slasher, you have this kind of haunting curse that is one obviously very scary because you're gonna die in
Mhm.
7 days, but also the fact that like you to save yourself, you have to offhandedly kill somebody else. Like you have to pass it
Yeah.
on. And then so that like ties in like this whole other like psychological thriller of like if you were in that situation, what would you do? Because it's either you or somebody else, and then you have to make that decision. So I don't know, that type of layering of, oh, this long, straight black hair ghost girl is gonna kill me. And then I also have to make that moral dilemma decision of like, I don't want to die, so I have to show somebody else. Like, I don't
Right.
know, the ring, like thinking through this experiment and starting this podcast was really cool to see how this movie in the early 2000s has, rippled through all of the movies that I've been watching recently, even today.
Yeah, I definitely think that it was a huge influence for a lot of the stuff that's being made today.
Mhm.
Um, I think I read I think it was like a review or something. It might have been on Wikipedia, but it was talking about how the original Ring, one of the themes that it talked about was just this fear of technology. I'm going to use a really obnoxious word, juxtaposition of,
Ooh.
um, of like technology versus like nature. It got me thinking about like, you remember the 90s where people were always writing those cursed emails and sending them to each other, and they
Yeah.
were just like, send this to 10 people or you will die.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like, I wonder if that was sort of, I mean, like, what came first, like the curse emails or like the the ring, right? Or Ringu. That sort of idea of like us being so scared of this newfangled technology that we automatically succumb to whatever. It's not really a scam. I mean, it's a curse, but so maybe it is sort of like a scam. It's like the scammy curse that we'll just like pass on to another person without even thinking about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah, I have technophobia also written down, which is apparently a
Oh.
real term, but that's like the fear of
Mhm.
technology. And I guess it does make sense in like we kind of grew up in this technological boom where nothing like this has ever happened before. And like it's really funny to see the TVs in these. Everybody has like flat screens and stuff now. But like seeing these TVs and like this, I guess, fear of, I don't even know what the fear would have been, because we grew up loving technology and like
Mhm.
being excited about it. But I'm assuming it could be a lot scary for a lot of people of like, oh, like especially like you hear iPad kids, that term now, and you hear like how much screen time, like maybe this was just foreshadowing all the addiction that came from like explaining why people had technophobia is because they didn't know like how addicted we would become in in 2025 on screens
Yeah.
and on our phones all the time. So that's an interesting um thing that happened of the times, but is still relevant really today. Maybe it's not necessarily about the fear of technology, but the fear of addiction to
Mhm.
technology.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see that. Like it feels very relevant. The more that we talk about this, the more I'm just like, this feels like something that could have come out now.
Hmm.
And that's really interesting. Another theme that I do want to also talk about is
Hmm.
the mommy issues. I think that like this entire episode is dedicated to mommy issues.
Mommy issues. Although, can the in the original one, the dad killed the daughter, right? The dad pushed the
Yes.
daughter down the well.
Yes, the dad pushed the daughter down the well.
So daddy and mommy issues,
Yes,
but
daddy
mostly
and mommy
mommy.
issues. Yes,
Mostly mommy issues.
mostly mommy issues. The reason why I bring up mommy issues is because of the main character, the lead in Ringu, Reiko Asakawa.
Uh-huh.
She's a bad mom. She's neglectful.
I also writ that down. Like Rachel in the newer one was kind of more like maybe charismatic and like a badass and like was sure of herself,
Mhm.
even though she was also a bad mom. But
Yeah.
Raiko just didn't seem to care about anything.
Yeah. The two scenes side by side, like remember that one scene where it's close to the beginning where Reiko is getting ready for a funeral. And this was like the I think it was like the babysitter's funeral. It was like her, I think it was like her niece or something like that. But she's getting ready for the funeral and her kid has already got her dress ready for her and she's acting as if this is normal and
Yeah,
she puts on the dress and she's just like, "Can you zip me up?" Like is this normal?
is that
Like
no?
this doesn't feel normal. And then in the American version, Rachel also in a rush, a lot of, things going on. But I think for that version, she's sort of surprised that her own son like had the dress out for her. I would say that like there are mommy issues in the American version as well, but the mommy issues spawn more from Samara and her relationship with her mother rather than the issues that we're seeing between like Sadako and her mother. It's like sort of like this parallel with like Sadako and her mother and also Reiko and her son. Like there's this weird parallel that's going on there for Ringu versus the American version. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I
Mhm.
was digging into like because the theme of the mother-daughter was um very straightforward in the American version for me. And I mean both of them kind of like show the son kind of being neglected and like the mom not being present with them. But I when I was digging a little bit deeper, I realized that one of the biggest differences was like the dad killed the daughter versus the mom killing the daughter in the Japanese version versus the American version. So then I
Ah,
started digging a little bit deeper and I was like, what was the influence or like what was the backstory of that scene where it was Raiko's ex-partner a psychic or like
yes,
like
yes.
he had like paranormal training and
Yeah.
stuff. And when they had that flashback where they kind of like learn more, um they show the mom, who is named Shizuku Yamamura, and then I like Googled that, and I found out that that character, like the clairvoyant, the psychic, was based off of a real psychic, named
Oh, wow.
Chizuku Mifune, who was a self-proclaimed clairvoyant in the late Meiji period. Um, And that was like kind of the only connection that I got was that like the mom was a fake. I shouldn't say fake. The mom was a self-proclaimed clairvoyant or like
Um,
maybe um didn't really have powers and her daughter did because her daughter actually killed that or like caused the journalist to die.
uh,
And then the dad was like, "Oh, my daughter is very powerful. I need to kill her."
yeah. So in Ring Zero,
Yeah.
there are two Sadakos,
Oh.
which makes things a little bit more complicated. They try to explain everything in Ring Zero, and the themes of Ring Zero are like completely different from uh Ring. I think Ring Zero is also known as Birthday. I could be wrong about that. In that movie, they explained that so she had been alive until she was 19. The mom died early on. So there are two versions of Sadako. The first one is more adjusted to society. The other one is less adjusted, well adjusted to society, and lives with her dad. And the one who is better adjusted to society and was like, out and about, going to whatever, she goes off to join a theater troupe. And the entire movie is about her being a part of that theater troupe. And things happen. She accidentally, or maybe intentionally, kills the lead of the play, and she becomes the lead of the play. And I mean, good for her, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, she
Yeah,
kind of
whatever
like,
it takes.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, honestly, like good for her. I mean, she's got ambitions, right? And so that happens, and then she develops a romantic relationship with one of the people who works on lighting. But that guy who works on lighting also has a girlfriend, and
Mm.
so everyone in the theater troupe hates her essentially because I mean, she's not pick me, but
Well, kind of.
kind of anyway and she's a little bit weird. She's like not weird in the sense that she's like a pick me, but she everyone else around her sort of treats her like she's a little bit different.
Mhm.
um and that got me thinking that like she could be like neurodivergent, and so like the film kind of made me think about like people who are neurodivergent who have talents that maybe don't they're probably like very talented, they're very hardworking, and at the end of the day they're still sort of treated poorly
Mhm.
because of the way that they are they communicate with other people. There is this mob mentality again, similar to how the people were treating her mom in the first movie, where the entire theater troupe, they attempt to kill Sadako, and then
Oh.
they end up taking her to like the middle of the woods. There's like this weird thing, they're trying to like bury her, and then um the other Sadako shows up and uh just I don't know, there's a killing spree. The entire theater troupe is dead. And yeah, it's very good. I'm not explaining it well enough, but I feel like it was like thinking about it now, I'm just like, it was actually a very good movie because it was talking about like the duality of Sadako, and like, how she's trying really hard to fit in, but it's just so hard for her because it's like, she has powers. She's like different. She's not the same as everyone else.
Mhm.
Um, and then at the end of the day, like, the father, because he was just like he just like couldn't take it anymore. That's when he decided to kill Sadako. So
Mm.
yeah.
How did they explain two Sadakas?
You know what? I gotta rewatch the movie. I don't
Okay.
really remember. I gotta rewatch it. um,
Or maybe it was just like a physical portrayal of her just not having it anymore. But that's very interesting though.
yeah.
Because it's also like, I mean, the same thing kind of is mirrored in Samara. Like they were like testing on this poor child
Yeah.
because yeah, so it's like I think that's actually, I mean, I never really thought about the theme of this child not being understood because they were neurodivergent or whatever it might be, how they communicate or whatever, but that is a very interesting thing to consider is that like we see
Mhm.
this as a difficult child, but it's like, raising a child
Yeah.
is just like you need to have specific tools or you need to learn how to talk to people differently. And I think that's That's pretty interesting. And I never really thought about it that way. I mean, I think
Yeah,
they're both badasses.
they are.
Yeah. It's again, they're like the the pale girl with long black hair has become an iconic
Yeah.
horror monster now, which is really cool. I just have the note slap LOL next to Raiko's name. Do you remember like Raiko was just like gonna give up? Do you like when they were like pulling the water out of the well and like
Oh
trying
my
to get to Sadako?
God.
Raiko was just like, I'm done. I'm tired. I cannot doing it. And the husband or the ex just like slaps her and is like, get it together, woman. Whereas like Rachel like gets knocked into this well and is like fighting for her life. And I was just like, what a weird like I don't know what that means, but I just thought I just have slap LOL because like when he slapped her, I was like, whoa. Like I guess I understand, but also like what is going on here? Um but then like
Yeah.
they both kind of like caress this dead child, and I was just like, they're very willing to do so. And
Yeah.
I don't think me personally, Danny, would be willing, even if I did all this research and tried to save my own life. I don't know how sympathetic slash empathetic I can be to this corpse in a well that they were like coddling.
Again, I think this boils down to mommy issues. Like I think that because okay, so for Reiko, I think this is just a theory. I think that she's unable to provide um she's just not very warm to her own son. And for some strange reason, she feels warmth towards this dead body that
Uh-huh.
is a child. Or supposedly we, at the time of I mean, later on we find out she's actually 19, but
Yeah.
like I think that she has like more empathy or sympathy towards this corpse over her own child. And they both do have parallels. Like they're both like kids who I think are a little bit neurodivergent.
Hmm.
Um, but then you see the American version. I think like Rachel with this corpse, she's just like, it's just like my child.
I
And
was like, no,
so
it's not.
like it's not.
It's not.
Girl, that is not your child. Like this is a girl in a this is a corpse. This is literally a corpse in a well. Um and also, like, did you have to do all that work? Like, you could have just listened to the teenagers who told you, like, make a copy and pass it on. But no, you had to go into a fucking well.
Yeah. Well, that was the biggest twist too. Like I was like, wow, this was kind of ahead of it. This was like M. Night Shyamalan like precursor because like
Yeah.
you think after they find this dead body, everything is fine and dandy. They've released themselves from the curse,
Yeah.
and then surprise, she's gonna come kill you anyways. She's still haunting. Um,
Yeah.
and like I don't know, it was weirdly nostalgic seeing in the American version, seeing Samara crawl out of that TV, and it's
Oh my
such a
God.
cool scene because it's like the TV, and you're like waiting for this moment the whole time. I have in my notes like foreshadowing from the even the fly coming out of the TV. So like we kind of have this feeling of like, oh, she's kind of like able to get through these different dimensions or whatever, however she haunts. But then there was like water and like it's glitchy and like it's like techno and like I was just like, oh, this is terrifying in like the coolest way.
That's what they spent their budget on. That was where the $40 million went.
Even I mean, I guess in the original one it was also kind of scary, but I feel like they did more practical effects.
Mhm.
Um like it looked like it was more like contortioning and like the movements and stuff. But yeah, the American version ending was like it's pretty iconic,
Yeah.
straight up. Yeah.
I preferred the American ending over the Japanese ending for that part. I think in terms of the tapes, I prefer the Japanese tapes over the American tape. What are some other things that you preferred one over the other in terms of like the various versions?
I preferred visually the original. I was not like I guess th I didn't really mind seeing the blue-green filter tint until I saw Ringu and I was like, oh, like this is a regular color balanced movie. Like the white balance is nice, the brights are bright, the darks are dark. Um, some of the jump scares still live up in the remake, which I appreciated. Um, I think I might have liked Rachel as a protagonist better, but that could just be a nostalgia thing. I mean, you're not really supposed to like them, but I feel like
Mhm.
her character development was maybe paced better or like she started understanding more and more. Whereas I feel like Raiko is still kind of like, I don't, is she still a bad mom? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like something that I've been wondering, right? Like, are we intentionally supposed to hate Reiko because, um, you know, the the messaging of the film is that bad things happen to people who do bad things. Like, is that what it is? Because, she is suffering a lot, she's going through a lot. Like, are we supposed to intentionally not like her as a result? Whereas with Rachel, it's, Americanized version, she's a lead. You have to relate to her.
Mhm.
So
Oh, that makes sense.
yeah, is it more palatable that way for a larger audience because she's, the lead, she's got to be likable versus like Ringu, where it's like, okay, she fucked around and she found out.
She sure did. Yeah. I think Sadako is scarier than Samara, just in general. So I think I prefer the original Ring for that reason. Um, but I mean, it's kind of a little hard to compare knowing that like budget wise, one was 1.5 and one was 48 million. Like even knowing that, I'm like, I mean, the original Ring still holds up. Um, for me, it wasn't as scary, but it was more like unnerving and unsettling. This was the first time I rewatched The Ring as an adult, I think, like as like not seeing it when I was in my early teens, a preteen. And I was like, oh, this is still pretty scary.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah, for sure. And now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if that 40, is it $48 million?
Yeah, 48 million. That was their
$48
budget.
million. I wonder if some of that was licensing fees, like licensing fees for
Um,
the original movie, so that way they can make it. And then the rest of it was all, on CGI. And I mean, obviously, Naomi Watts is a huge star. So
mhm.
the cost of casting just sort of like raised that price up a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think overall, like if you think about it, like what if the original Ring had 48 million?
I swear, I thought you were going to say, what if we made a movie and we got it licensed and we got $48 million out of
What if?
it?
What if? If anybody out there has 48 million sitting around, you can figure out.
Yeah.
You can figure out. All right, let's take a break. All right, we're back. And now it's part of the show that we're calling Slaughterboxd. So, me and Banana have tasked each other to find some funny, weird, possibly unhinged reviews on Letterboxd. And after reading it to each other, we have to guess what the star rating is left with that review. And of course, you can play along at home as well. So, of course, we talked about three movies this episode. So we'll start off with Presents. So, um, I will be reading some random reviews, and
I'm
Banana,
ready.
you just have to guess. Remember, it's a scale from one half a star all the way up to 5 stars. And you can have halves too. So if you're feeling froggy, then you can guess halves too. So the first review comes from Billy. Billy left a review on Letterboxd saying, it's like if Casper's haunted house was full of alcoholics right up until a brutally tense and final 20 minutes.
Yeah, I would say they were all alcoholics, first of all. Actually, no, they were there were a lot of alcoholics now that I think about it. Anyway, okay, so this is a hard one. Oh my God. Okay, tense 20 minutes. I feel like that's like the big part that I should be focusing on. That's a positive, right? So I would say that's 4 stars.
5 stars. Five
Five
stars.
stars.
Yeah,
Wow.
5 stars from
Okay.
Billy. All
Wow.
right.
Okay, Billy.
This one's from Kyle. The presence is gay as hell hiding in that closet. You are seen. Hashtag it gets better. Kyle, yeah.
This is so hard. Like I automatically think I think it's a 5 star review.
Three.
What?
Three.
I'm so confused now.
You know, you can only guess. I love that the presence is gay as hell hiding in that closet. All right, this one comes from Raf. Raf says, POV, me spending 85 minutes on Pinterest searching antique mirrors, textured lampshades, and Sherwin-Williams breezy blue.
This sounds like a positive review. Maybe I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe I just don't. I'm like really bad at this game. I'm gonna say 3 stars.
1.5.
1.5? What? This person loved the interior design but hated the entire movie. Is that what I'm getting from
I
this?
guess that's what you're getting. All right, last one. Last one. This one's from Haley Bill. The way the mom talked about her son was the scariest part of the movie. Frowny face.
That is so funny. And it's true. It was terrifying,
Y-
honestly.
Yeah.
Um, 3 stars.
4 stars.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
okay, okay.
All right.
All right.
Unhinged, but I still love the presence is gay as hell for hiding in that closet.
I love that quote. I'm gonna get on a shirt, honestly. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle.
You ready for the ring?
Yeah, this is the original one, right?
No, this is not the original one. This
Oh,
is the Ring English version.
English version. Okay, okay, okay.
This first one is from Ellie. And they say typical horse girl.
Dang, Samara was a horse girl. Horse girl, I feel like is usually used as a pejorative, but I personally love my friends that have been horse girls are cool. So I'm gonna give it somewhere in the middle. I'm gonna give it a 2.5.
4 stars.
Oh, okay.
The same person posted later on, I need to know what shampoo and conditioner Samara uses. With the same rating.
Still 4 stars. Still
Still
four
four
stars.
stars.
I love that.
Next is I like how they turned it into a pyramid scheme at the end from Jay Will.
Jay Will with the capitalism twist. Capitalism's bad. I feel like this might be a negative review. 2 stars?
Close, 2.5.
Damn it. Damn it. Ah,
It was really
ah,
close though. That was
I
super
know.
close.
That was close. Ugh.
The next one we have is from Ian, and it says, no one, and blank. Anna Morgan, I'm gonna take my horse to the Old Town Road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
Hold on. I know we've gone through our deep dive, but the horse motif was a little weird, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I've had this discussion in the past with other people
Mhm.
at OrcaCon, and rich people love horses.
Okay.
So this is a $48 million movie.
They said put some horses in that
They
bitch.
said, yeah, let's put some horses in that bitch. That's where the budget went.
I will say, a up close shot of a horse's eye is kind of terrifying because it looks like they're wearing like those sclera, like it's just like a
Yeah.
fully black pupil. But yeah,
I,
anyways, the horses.
quick tangent. Have you
Uh-huh.
seen the Workmeister Harmonies?
What is it?
It's called the Workmeister Harmonies, and it's all in black and white.
Uh-uh.
So it's in the movie, there's a giant whale that comes to town, and you see there's this iconic shot similar to the horse where it's just a whale's eye. Anyway, sorry, that was a
Probably
tangent.
terrifying.
It
Is it a
was, yeah.
scary movie?
Scare. It's terrifying in the way that it's like existentially
Mm,
terrifying.
mm. Because a whale's eye is probably like, I don't know, as big as
It's like your face. It's like
I feel like it's bigger than my face.
it's bigger than your face. Maybe I don't know. Actually,
A whale?
a whale.
A
You
whale
think
is
a
big, and
you
their
think a
eyeball,
whale? Maybe actually. Now that you mention it, maybe it's like two faces,
two faces, two heads. All right.
two
Anyways,
heads.
can you read? Can you
Oh, right.
read the question?
So the quote is from Ian. No one, blank, Anna Morgan, I'm going to take my horse to the Old Town Road. I'm going to ride till I can't no more.
An iconic Lil Nas X song. I feel like that's funny. Ian has a good sense of humor. Weird reference, but also we were talking about horses and how it was a weird motif. Maybe that was a 3.5 star.
You're really good at this, but you're very close.
Ah,
It's 3 stars.
dang it. I keep trying to put in those halves, or those halves are getting me. All right.
The last one we have here is from Bryn Helena. Naomi Watts Kiss Me on the Lips challenge.
I would assume that would be a good thing. So Naomi Watts, yes. Um, her as a mom in the movie as Rachel, no. Naomi, 5 stars?
Yes, 5 stars.
Oh, I got
Hey!
one. All right, and then for the last one, since we have three movies this time around, we both picked two. So we're gonna go back to the original Ringu. Mon says, it kind of makes me nervous. I'm still thinking about the corpse hug, like, why?
It makes me nervous. It is a scary movie, so that's a good thing, right? If it makes you nervous. The corpse hug, but then it ended with, but why? So I guess they're confused. I'm also confused. I would say 3.
Dang, close. 2.5.
Ah, so close.
Those halves are getting us. We're like getting right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, they really are.
All right, this one is from NDC 32002. Sure, she's creepy, but no one wants to talk about Sadako's world-class customer service hotline.
Actually, that's true. She, yeah, like that customer service hotline, like honestly, I have been on the phone on hold for like hours.
And she's right
So,
there ready for you.
yeah, she's super ready. Okay. I like 5 stars.
Four. It was a 4 star.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
It's still a good rating. Good for her.
yeah.
I don't know why there are so many comments when I was going through the comments, the reviews. There were so many about Pingu, like the
Mm.
cartoon, like the claymation cartoon.
Oh,
One of the comments is, haha, the title sounds like Pingu. And this is from Liam.
uh-huh. What is Pingu?
It's like a it's a cartoon. I think it's like Icelandic, but it's a cartoon of a
Of a penguin?
yeah, it's a claymation penguin.
Oh,
And
it's cute.
it's really cute. Yeah. Maybe it's
Okay.
not Icelandic. I gotta double check. Sorry if I'm offending everyone
In
who,
Iceland.
yeah, in Iceland, if it's like actually not.
So Liam said, haha, it has a name like Pingu.
Sorry, Pingu's from Switzerland. I just
Oh,
completely,
sorry, Iceland.
yeah. Anyway, yes, Liam says, haha, the title sounds like Pingu.
Okay, Pingu's cute, but you're comparing it to a horror movie. But also, if it's from an American, then maybe they don't know that it's just Ring, but we Americanized it to distinguish it to be Ringu. So they don't know that. So maybe they're poking fun at it. Oh, I'm going way too deep into this. I'm like psychoanalyzing Liam without knowing who Liam is. I'm gonna say that is a 1 star review.
3.5.
Oh, okay. Maybe Pingu is really one of Liam's top IPs. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Because there's another positive review from a person named Alexei, who gave Ringu 4 stars, and it's Ringu to the tune of the theme from Pingu.
I guess after this I need to go listen to the theme of Pingu.
The next one is from Ash. Yo, Sadako is kind of a girl boss.
True statement. 4.5 stars.
You got it right.
I was gonna say 5, but I played into the half. Wow.
Yeah, there was one more comment that was from this person called Justy. They didn't rate it any stars, but they said, "Ugh, wet hair is gross," and they liked it.
Wet hair is kind of gross.
Yeah.
Wet hair, they played way more into the wet hair in the American version with the pull-in and the
Oh, yeah, they did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the very first episode of Spooky Asian Club. We have more episodes coming this season, so we hope you stick around. Don't forget to like, share, rate, and subscribe.
And until next time, don't watch any cursed tapes, and if you do, remember to pass it on.
And watch out for the wells.
Ah!
This episode of Spooky Asian Club was edited by Marcus Mays. Music was provided by Artlist. Spooky Asian Club's logo was designed by Andy Crisp, and the sustained life of this podcast is made possible from our creepy little Patreon members and listeners like you.